host with the most, Marcos, right here in the building, somewhere in downtown Dubai, enjoying the summer sun, while my guest is kind of freezing in Finland. Maybe not. I don't know. Never been there. But anyways, I wanted to bring in Vesa. Quite an interesting guy. I've been following him since maybe October 2021. I know, been tracking you, kind of stalking you, but take it as a compliment, sir. Take it as a compliment. And don't press charges on me, sir, please. I have so much to live for. But I want to bring Vesa in because he has worked on some really interesting, work in the NFT space. And yeah, I have no idea about NFTs. I'm not that creative like him and like that, but I'm fascinated how he's using art and creative thinking and merging with technology. So I think to me that is amazing. That's fascinating, and that kind of incorporates with my belief that crypto and blockchain-based solutions are going to revolutionize the internet, information, money. Now, Vesa, I just want to welcome you to the XTcast, the official podcast of XT.com. How are you, sir?
What's up, Marcos? Very good to be with you. Always good to see your smiling face. Great energy, and thank you so much for inviting me to hang out with you for a little bit to talk about fascinating things, I guess. And yeah, indeed, I'm not freezing my butt off at the moment. It's the weather is quite nice. It's a lot of sun. I just came from a short bicycle ride. I'm sweating my butt off. So, it's the opposite. It's actually part of the nicest weather that you do get in Finland. But that being said, I'm very enthusiastic and happy to be soon joining you in Dubai because I miss it.
All right.
And we're coming back with my wife at the beginning of September and starting to be ready for the fall run of all the craziness that will ensue with all the different kinds of conferences and meeting friends and all those delicious dinners. So,
I think that, when it comes to these crypto events, blockchain events, maybe fintech summits, one of my favorite things is the get-togethers, the networking sessions where you get free drinks, free canopies. But I love the gala dinner stuff. So as a skinny guy here, trying to survive the mean streets of Dubai, to me it's something I look forward to.
Yeah, no, it's that whole social thing, and it's for me still not having lived in cold countries most of my life. It's either been Finland or the UK. Nearly 10 years of my life have been in the UK. Last winter, for example, because most of it was in Dubai, that was such a luxury. I mean, for me to be in February, just sort of getting up in the morning, going to the gym, and then hopping into the pool, and then taking the sun for granted is I can't explain. No one who's lived in warm countries their whole life will ever understand what it's like to live first of your 40 years in cold countries and then all of a sudden be able to be in a nicer climate and sort of, like I said, take it for granted. So I can't wait to take it more for granted.
Yeah. No, because I could kind of relate to you. The reason I say that is, right after high school, I moved from one desert in Dubai to another desert in West Texas. So high elevation, it's very windy. So every 20 minutes, the weather changes. But because it's inland, like in the continent, I forget how you describe it. Sometimes it gets hot, but it can get really cold. So so I definitely do have an appreciation whenever I come back to Dubai during the winter time. So I really enjoy the time from maybe end of October to maybe the end of March. So usually that's kind of like a sweet spot time to come to Dubai. So really appreciate that. So, but anyways, let's now we kind of talked about Dubai, and you got plans to come to Dubai. So I'm excited to see you in the flesh. I would like for my audience to kind of learn a little bit about you. What makes you special? Who you are? Where you came from? And for me, when I think about you, I think of like an artist who has his own fancy gallery. I know maybe from a traditional sense, but I'm thinking why the hell would you come from the traditional space and enter the wild space of crypto and blockchain? Too much of craziness, all this craziness is going on. So what brought you? How did you find this, the realm of crypto and blockchain?
Well, is it okay? Can I share my screen? Can I show you some stuff?
Yes, sir.
Is that
Please
okay?
do, please. Yeah. Hey, sharing is caring, my friend.
Okay, because this might be the easiest way to go about this. So, for example, here, because I didn't so-called come from the traditional world. I mean, if you can see this is my studio in Helsinki. We built a while ago, and it's made because my originals have been digital files since 2008. So I kind of started, I went from music and film into contemporary art in 2008 when I started body painting on people and painting and photographing those paintings and the process of body painting people and whatever. So my originals were high resolution files ever since then. And that was kind of a problem when I was trying to fit into the legacy art world, so to speak, because they were always asking me whether I had an oil original and or acrylic original. And all I could say is that, hey, listen, I just have a file. So that had some economic consequences, and even though I made like really large projects, some of them, like I did this collaboration with a Bollywood actress, this one on the floor here, for example, we reached about 300 million people in legacy media alone. That's discounting the viral, because we had no idea how to count the viral at that point. But essentially, we made a pretty substantial impact with this digital art project, but we couldn't really monetize it, and the art world didn't really kind of understand it, and those kinds of things. So really, that's a part of the thing, is that here you start to see also, this is the gallery that I work with in Dubai, called Art in Space. It's close to the Burj Khalifa, which is the highest resolution screens in the world. You can make 300 smells come from the ceiling. The floor vibrates with the same frequency as the audio and wind and smoke and all that kind of stuff, and it's a fully immersive kind of space, which is super incredible to be a part of. And this is 3 of my works these works actually started as stills works, so these layered type of painting and for body painting and that kind of thing, and then we reanimated them to come into life for this space. But now increasingly, now that I come back, then the plan is that with Lorenzo and this fantastic gallery, we're going to design works that are intended for this 360 display and the resolution and that kind of thing to begin with. So I'm super excited about that kind of thing. And then, of course, the metaverse side of things, which is something that I'm eager to always sort of showcase, to start to tell. We just published this. Well, this is an old rendition, actually. Might be actually better to showcase in on the web browser, but essentially this is the Luxor Temple in Egypt, and with Superworld, the augmented reality metaverse world, we built this premium virtual reality gallery, their only virtual reality gallery in their world thus far, and we sort of transmitted this Egyptian temple into a virtual reality version, and then we made it my personal art gallery from which you can buy the NFT. And these are the kinds of things that I find super fascinating. It's fun to play in between the physical world and the digital world, and how those kind of come together or don't in certain instances, and kind of play about with all these things that are now possible. Because, I mean, this is quite a lot more interesting than your sort of corner gallery in Dubai that has a few Scrooge McDucks and whatever Squash-face paintings sort of going on for it. And the scale is also something very different, because you can take this and send it all across the world with a click of a button. Plus, you can have 1 million people show up at your opening, which is those kinds of things are really expanding what is possible for art, and what's sort of going to be possible very soon as a norm, as opposed to something that is now still like this very sort of cutting edge type situation. Is there something else that is, well, this, I'll give you a preview of something that most people haven't seen. This is Metaverse fashion for avatars. Like the first prototypes of a line that is coming up with.
This was what I'm seeing it.
So quite a lot of things like that. I mean, I build with 7 different Metaverse companies. And then with, of course, in Dubai, I built with Dr. Marwan Al Zarooni, who's the CEO of the Dubai Blockchain Center. You know him very well.
Yeah.
And we have this art car project together where we wrap physical cars into art. And then we also make virtual reality versions of those cars. And they kind of come as this combined NFT thing. So that's in a nutshell a lot of the stuff I'm doing and fascinated by.
Okay. Oh, no, this is great. No, this is really great info. I guess I want to say like a quick apology. I didn't, because I was under the impression you came from the traditional painting, I guess the art space, but I think this is like, you just started like new, like it's in a innovative way, like very novel compared to, I guess the traditional sense. So that is fascinating. And definitely, I was fascinated with, when you showcased Dr. Marwan's his two Teslas, the old the Roadster, and I guess what do you call the Model S, I think, right? The sedan. So that was interesting, and I think you call it art car. But could you just explain to my audience, but even to me too, like why would you wrap artwork around a car, and what was what was the reasoning behind it, like to pursue that idea?
Well, I mean, I had the idea because I was a fanboy of Elon Musk from quite from the early days. Because when I realized what he was really doing is at first I was like, okay, so you're doing an electric car, but then actually what it is a transformation of the electricity grid of the world, is how to get off fossil fuels and whatever, and how to use. So essentially Tesla is a vehicle to an energy grid transformation. And I thought that was such a fascinating concept. And of course he's doing those things. And I thought, well, okay, that's really cool. So when I was inspired by that, and I made this Photoshop version of a Tesla Model S back in 2014 or something like that with my art, just thinking that would be a dope car to have, is that you wrap a car in art, and it's either you showcase your taste or lack thereof, or you never know. Everyone's got their take on it. But when I met Dr. Marwan for the first time, we discussed many things, and that was just one of the things that I showed him off the cuff type of a comment, and I didn't think anything of it. And lo and behold, a couple of months after that, he says, Vesa, do you have some time to hop on a call? And we're like, yeah, of course. And he says that I've bought 17 cars, and we're going to be making them into NFTs now, and we're going to wrap them in art.
Sorry, hold on. I got to stop you right there. Wait. What did Dr. Marwan say to you? How many? Wait, he bought how many?
He said he bought 17 cars, 17.
Oh,
and we're going to be making those.
Bought 17.
Yeah.
Man, I barely struggled to get a car. Never mind.
Some of us are crypto whales, bro.
Hey, nicely done. Well, nicely done, Dr. Marwan. Nicely done.
Nicely done. Yeah, so, and that evolved into a conversation, because I then started really taking it sort of seriously, of course. And, or sincerely at least, because serious is a bad term. You can be sincere, but not serious. You can play with things and still achieve results, but not be too grim-minded about stuff. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say, that this is a playful thing, and therefore sincere is a better term, I guess, because if you think of the Model S, which is now the one that is more famous around Dubai, because Dr. Marwan drives that one everywhere, and it's sort of he even says that it's become a part of his identity. So the fun thing about that is that if you think that a used Model S is about a $35,000 car. It's a liability, essentially. It goes down in value constantly, and there's nothing special about it in a sense.
Right.
And if you wrap it in a one-of-one artwork of mine, that is the first one that I made about the DeFi movement, that has the Ethereum logo embedded in a tasteful kind of way, and it looks quite striking as a car. You know, you're gonna notice it when it rolls up. You know, that there's that type of thing.
Sure,
but the wrap itself, whether you like it on top of it or not, points to an NFT that you own. You essentially own the one-of-one artwork that the car is wrapped in. So The wrap on the car is really just a pointer to the artwork that you own and how you can utilize that artwork in different kinds of ways. Like in my studio, it can be a couch, it can be a table, it can be many different things. So we're thinking about on how to license these sort of artworks via my company to those who collect them, that they get a part of the revenue of how we resell a lot of the other things if you invest into the actual original. So this is a new kind of concept that we're playing about with. And then, of course, I started thinking that, okay, so hold on a minute. First thing that people kind of start to go and wonder is that, hold on a minute. First, the assumption is that the car is the thing of value. Then you look at the artwork and you go, hold on a minute. Is that artwork more valuable than the car? That's the first question that starts to go, oh, I wonder.
Yeah.
And then when you add things like augmented reality, that you point to your mobile on the car itself and the artwork comes alive, or then you have the virtual reality asset. And then we're building a racetrack in the metaverse where with Zoan, this virtual reality company, who have this world called Cornerstone Land, where we're going to build the racetrack. Then if we do it the way that we plan, is that those who race those cars, who've bought the full stack of assets, they can win prize money as they go about racing each other in the metaverse. So essentially you take a liability that you make into a multi-level asset class that can earn you residual income. So this is what you can start to do with art, to things that can be, even to a degree, quite mundane. But the thing here is, and this is what I've, let's say, if I didn't rip it off consciously or inspired by Elon Musk, it's a similar type of journey for Tesla. It's a Tesla by design. That was the first car that we started with, because essentially the car itself becomes an education to go towards the metaverse and Web3, because that's the journey. First you question whether the car is valuable, then the artwork, then the access to the augmented reality, then to virtual reality, then to Web3. What does it mean to own these assets? And the car takes you on that journey. So it's a transformation of your sort of value system of how you see what's going on. And that's what I think is the real interesting thing about the whole project.
No, definitely no. Hey, first of all, thank you so much for sharing that. Because I do feel there's this incredible, like from a economic, financial, maybe from a social point of view, I think that we are going through a global shift. And also, I mean, just itself, using the car and the artwork just transform into a multi-layered or multi-dimensional asset. I think it's kind of like definitely changing the way we value things and view things, and a lot of shifts. I mean, like I'm sure you do realize, like this is sort of. I think in a couple of years, a lot of people will be questioning things, how we do things, and how we value work, and how we like build communities. I mean, there's like so many levels. Like it's I'm having a hard time explaining it, but
of course, and it's also about beauty. I mean, now if you think that just a while ago, the number 8 license plate in Dubai, I think it sold for like $16 million or something like that. And we know how to make these cars street legal now in Dubai. These are the first 3 street legal art cars in Dubai. So what does that mean, that you get to have a registered art car in Dubai? I mean, if you go to the Palm and you drive there with a very fancy Rolls Royce, who cares? Because there's 6 other Rolls Royces just next to you. It's going to get you to the middle class at the Palm, But as soon as you drive the first art Rolls Royce in between the other ones, and you get to say that, by the way, because peacocking and that kind of showcase stuff is what you do in Dubai, then we might just have a revolution in our hands. Economically, it's one thing, but then also I think, because I don't think any of us who are artists get into the, let's say, the game of art, none of us get there because we just want to make money. That's not the case. I mean, of course, it's nice, and you need to have energy in your projects, because otherwise they just go to the elephant burial ground, and money is a big part of that. But ultimately, what I would like to see happen is that in 2 to 3 years, the cityscape of Dubai has transformed. Is that now you have nearly no art cars driving around, and then in 2 to 3 years, you might have quite a few, and that changes the way that the whole of the aesthetics of the city look like. And how does that transform others, or when we get to do this in other cities, other countries, and so forth, and how other people who are undoubtedly doing similar things or ripping us off, then inspired by, once they do those things. No, but honestly, there've been so many people who've been doing Artcars way before me, and that's even been a BMW thing for the longest time. But we were, in this way of packaging things together, we're certainly the first. But I think there was only one NFT Porsche that was done in Miami before us. They beat us to the punch, but it was really just a painting on a car rather than something that really took it to many layers of what you can do with NFTs as an interesting thing. So we started early with this, and we're still building to the momentum, even to the first one to be auctioned off. So it's early days, and super interesting because it has applications to many other things than cars as well. And those are the things that we're sort of thinking about, and how they come together, so that also my company is becoming a company. I'm no longer just an artist. There's a 12 people constellation now around Vesa Digital. So
gotcha. Yeah, I want to ask you that, but before we dive into the Vesa brand, I remember when I saw both the Tesla cars, I was thinking in my mind, like, what if we could put an artwork on instead of Tesla, say like an American muscle car. I'm kind of like a fan of those old school, say like a Chevelle or like a 1967 Monte Carlo, kind of sort of little authentic Americana kind of cars. So it's always been like sort of like my fascination.
Well, let's do it for XT.
Hey, I'm trying to make some things happen, man. Oh, yeah. But anyways, let's talk about Vesa now, because it's a good thing you talked about the team, because previously, a lot of people know you by a name, but now Vesa has become a brand. Now, of course, like any brand, it's not just one person. There is a team behind Vesa. So I would love for you to, highlight the people who's, supporting you and help build the structure and the flow of Vesa.
Well, there's many people who are helping behind the scenes for a long time, and in that sort of a way, it's been, I would say, many of the Metaverse builders who are like not officially a part of Team Me, of course, but as collaborators. I would say Mika from Zoan has been pivotal during the last year. Then there's Nico from Blockchain Valley Virtual. That's a great thing. Then, of course, as an advisor for the company is Thomas Sabletal, who's the founder of the Cermak Eisencraft Gallery in Prague. It's their leading gallery there. This guy is responsible for selling for over, I think, $100 million worth of art in his career. And he's building with me towards getting the legacy art world to come and join this thing. Paul Wallace, who now is just leaving Terra Virtua to go on a different venture from there. But most, Anita Kalergis and Pekka Kelka, who are aka Crypto Granny and Papa Blockchain, they were the ones who brought me to Dubai.
Hey. Shout out, Crypto Granny.
Shout out to them. We were just hanging out yesterday here in Helsinki. Yeah. Great people, great minds, nice. and really just generous, heartfelt people who've become friends, not only like business associates, but real friends. And then there's Jonas and Vesa, who are part of the business development. And then we're thinking about the position for Vesa yet, depending on how things are going to lift off from this fall. Very, very interesting, super talented people in their fields and what they do. Alejandro, of course, from the marketing side, and Daniel. They're all on my website, and they're very impressive resumes and so forth. But I'm not going to go deeper into that. And my wife, of course, Lotta, who's been with me for 8 years, and she's a copywriter and doing many cool things here behind the scenes. Working.
Nice.
So, without boring, it's just a fantastic team to work with and build things. But I suppose as an artist, what it became and why it felt necessary is that I'm doing these things which ultimately sort of resulted in me being my own manager for 95% of the time and not doing so much of the creative and the art stuff. So I found myself doing a lot of things that I'm not very good at, nor am I, in truth, that interested in. I mean, I love networking. I love meeting people and putting ideas together and that kind of thing. But my idea of a good afternoon is not putting together a proposal deck. It is not what I should be doing and doing these business calculations and kind of that position, which is a CEO. I shouldn't be in this company. So this is what we're sort of flirting with and trying to find. And who are the people who are in those positions who love that? And that's what they do and they're great at, so that I could be more free to do what it is that I'm great at and kind of not try and be a jack of all trades, but really the master of the things that I am. And that sort of offers the whole venture credibility, and it offers a lot of things for us to be able to do much, much bigger collaborations with bigger brands and bigger entities than it would be if it's just me trying to kind of pull it all together.
Yeah. First of all, for your team, the people behind the scenes, first of all, I'd like to tell them thank you for their service. Just so that you know, the guys like you can, you know, really do some fun stuff, and you know, you need to have the leisure time. You need to have the, you know, the space to do some amazing work. You know, so I can understand that. I really appreciate that. So anyway, speaking about leisure and the time, you know, I'm sure you have. Developed a lot of expertise in the space, and I wanted to kind of ask you to share your thoughts on the metaverse. You know, what does the metaverse means to you? You know, because I've talked to many other people; they all have different variations. So, but you know, from an artist point of view, or your point of view, as Vesa, what are your thoughts? What do you?
Well, I'll go a little bit backward before I go much further forward, and I think that's the basic premise is that helped it make sense to me, but it locked to me that since the dawn of computers, we've had digital creativity. We've had people doing different kinds of things and pixel art and even how you think that the early computer games and their art and so forth. But we sort of associate still computers to be very good at replicating things and spreading them around very efficiently. So that's kind of like trying to make leaves money. It's not a very good strategy. It's not scarce. It's not something that has energy behind it in a way that, you know, we don't take it seriously. And even look at what happened to the music industry after the MP3s came along. And then it just became this sort of product factory type default setting thing. And NFTs, when they came along and I started understanding what it is, then that means that we finally have a technology to take this, what we've had for decades and decades, and then these scarcity tools will allow the same thing as a Mona Lisa. So essentially everyone can see it, but if you go about it the right way, only one can own it. And that's sort of, or 10 or 100 or whatever it is. And that takes a little bit to settle in as a concept, because we've been thinking about computers the opposite way, like that they're very good at replicating and spreading things around. So once that clicks that, oh, now there's a technology that is for the internet age in order for us to energize and monetize a lot of the things that we didn't take seriously because we thought it was only this one thing, then it just sort of clicks. And then when you start to see, like, for example, these different kind of metaverse worlds that I'm building at the moment, like let's say the one with Blockchain Valley Virtual, it means that me as an artist, I get to potentially launch a show for 5 million people if I do it right at the same time. There's nothing stopping that from happening. And that you can't even do. Let's say there's a very fancy museum in Bilbao or something like that, and I would have it all to myself, this like multi-million dollar, you know, thing, which would never happen. And I'd have it for 5 months or something like that. You know, you could potentially have the bigger numbers in attendance in a virtual gallery in a single setting that you would have for months in one of these things that is a cumbersome, you know, kind of glorious but cumbersome thing in comparison. So even if I charge the $1 for people to come and attend my show, and let's say more humbly 200,000 people show up, from ticket sales alone,
Yeah.
That's a different thing. And then it's the whitelists. Then it's the different kinds of things like the 3D statues that we're building, the metaverse fashion, the artworks themselves, the Artcars, the virtual reality versions, all those kinds of things. And you package them together and you start to all of a sudden, like there's going to be traditional VC money that is going to go like, huh? Because they didn't look at art that way, because they think of scale immediately. And usually what you associate an art show is like a cornerstone gallery where you have 100 square meters and a few paintings and something like that. So this is the kind of transformational shift that happens in the metaverse in art alone. And then you start to see all the different kinds of land ownership, the digital buildings, I mean, people have very utopian or dystopian sort of versions of it. I think, basically what it is, that first just the two-dimensional space of a website will collapse into a three-dimensional one. But ultimately, whether it's going to be a nightmare or heaven depends on largely the person or the group who are building whatever space that it is that they're building. I don't think it's going to be any different than what the internet is now. So essentially, like in NFTs, crypto dick butts are dominating a lot. So I don't presume it's going to be like a oracle of wisdom more than that. But let's say you have someone like an influencer, let's say like Sadhguru or someone who I think is an amazing individual. At some point, it will click to him that he can have an avatar that is guided by AI that can probably answer most of his base questions that people might have. And he could have a permanent 3D resonance where a lot of his videos and Save the Soil concept and art and his, Isha Foundation or those things could be in one kind of a setting that he can send with a click of a button to anyone in the world, or anyone can join at any time 24/7. Then those kinds of things they're obviously better than what we have right now as a solution to many different kinds of things. So the utility will guide it in different kinds of ways. And we're just beginning, and we have no idea what the very, very cool things are going to be that are going to be sort of as a result of this, and probably the same for the nightmares as well. Even though, the nightmares are easy to see already. I mean, we're building the matrix essentially. So it's up to us what kind of a matrix we're building.
Yeah, sure. No, like I love those points. And thank you for sharing that, because, I think it's the first time someone gave quite an interesting answer, but also same too, like, a lot of people have like a kind of like a very, how do you say, like a straightforward, not straightforward, but just like, okay, like kind of like a certain, there's a certainty. But I like the fact that, you're aware that a lot of uncertainty, we never know, but I love the fact that, these changes can be affected by individuals like myself and other people, how we use it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's entirely,
how we take it forward.
It's entirely up to XT of how you're going to eventually build your own space there. And it depends a lot on who makes the decisions with what kind of, without sounding too, weird about it, but what kind of consciousness are you going to be coming at it from? What do you want to achieve with the space that you can carve there, and how do you want people to feel when they come, and what the purpose of it is? And anyone who is building that kind of a thing, I mean, most things in this crypto space and NFT space now are built on hype. Even those who would probably have a lot more substance, because they want to make a lot of money fast, they kind of go about with these hype cycles. And, fair dues. Who am I to tell anyone how to make money? And people seem to be very enthused about crypto dick butts or whatever it is. Its existence doesn't threaten me, but I wish there was more sort of these use cases of how to do NFTs that would be more along the lines of what the Italian Renaissance was, which is something that we certainly need as a global society. I mean, if you think of the origin ethos of Bitcoin, of why it was sort of birthed into existence, and understanding what the fiat monetary system is and its crisis and the problems it came to solve, it is, I can't say that it's not disappointed that many of these people who were more like, even if they weren't Bitcoin maxis per se, but they would be very much with the crypto ethos, they are the ones who've sort of embraced the worst of the fiat NFT culture possible. So
Yeah, I think I agree to that. Yeah.
so there's a little bit of that going on, but yeah, it's trying times. I mean, COVID certainly helped to make NFTs and the digital spaces and that kind of a thing a much more pressing issue, and something that started developing a lot faster because of all the things that happened with COVID and so forth. So it was greatly assisted by it. And I think, thinking of how many mom and pop shops and small businesses and people's livelihoods and those kinds of things went on the wayside, it's no surprise that when it was possible to flip some NFTs and make some money, then that would be something that was adopted and fast.
Yeah, true. No, I can agree to that. Yeah, really great points though. But I want to kind of like circle back with the reference to the Italian Renaissance. Do you think it's possible? Do you believe, or do you have faith that we could see a Renaissance taking place, not just Dubai, but I guess globally, because I personally, for me, I do believe we are entering what I like to call the Great Transition. Some of my other friends call it the Great Reset.
Klaus Schwab calls it that.
Yeah.
The emperor.
But, yeah. You will know nothing, and you will be happy.
We'll own everything, and you will eat the crickets. Okay, bro.
The bugs.
The bugs. Good times.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, I know some of my friends and I'm not that big fan or whatever I can, but I also do believe, even from let's take for example 2009. I remember I was graduating like in 2008, 2009. I remember the global financial crisis, but I think that out of the darkness, right? I kind of saw, like, maybe later on, like Bitcoin, the concept of peer-to-peer electronic cash system was sort of like this new light, that new hope, So I do believe that there is maybe some sort of like a renaissance or like a new hope with these technologies.
I think there's two.
Not just
like if I said, this is a little bit devil's advocate, but I would say that if you look at, for example, that there would be an arts DAO, and then there's no one in that DAO that has any expertise in art. How much is the collective wisdom of that entity worth? So decentralizing something and democratizing something doesn't necessarily mean that something gets better. So I would say that in reality and in truth, what is happening is that you always want to have something centralized and something decentralized, and those have to be at odds and in competition with one another in reality, in such a way that it becomes an intelligent sort of, it doesn't get corrupted too badly, but it's also not left like a ship of fools type of situation. So it's the great hope of, I think, decentralization is not that we decentralized everything, but we have a competing system to centralization, which has a habit of corrupting itself very, very badly. But then vice versa for the decentralization, it's that has a great risk of not knowing where to go or what to do. So it's a little bit, those need to keep each other in check. And I think the power of Bitcoin, of what it came to do, and like I'm not a maxi. I'm a Bitcoin centrist per se. It's more like something that I would say that Bitcoin is kind of like your mother. Even if you think that she's flawed, she brought you to this world. Have respect, that type of thing, and approach it from there.
Yeah.
And I think if you listen to someone like Michael Saylor talk about the whole of the Bitcoin series through that he does with Robert Breedlove, I think it's like 16 times 2.5 hours or whatever it is. And if you don't walk away from that slightly transformed in thinking of what value and money and energy and kind of all of that thing is, to kind of reconfigure what it is, especially when you, let's say you listen to the sort of official version coming from the White House of what's going on with inflation. If that doesn't transform your way of looking at, what the sort of baseline of what you get fed, as opposed to how you can think about it if you really open up the box, then that would be pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
So that's what I try to do with art as well, because in a similar kind of way, and this is maybe the sort of central ethos of my coming keynotes as well, is that if you think about art, many people are, oh, what's that? Yeah, it's sort of something pinky, red wine, something garbage, whatever, that kind of thing, which is often true in the contemporary art world.
Yeah.
So, but if you really go back to first principles of some things, you go like, many of the great religious stories, they start with something of the equivalent of first there was nothing, and then, light came and everything appeared, and 7 days or something like that, and everything was created. But light is always a very essential thing. And if you look at a diamond, people think that the diamond is a valuable thing. And in one way it is, because it reflects light very beautifully. But it's not the diamond that you're looking at that is the beauty, but the different fragments of light. So if light sort of births everything, it's a similar thing with gold. Gold is a cumbersome, cold, heavy object, but it's very good at transmitting energy, and it's also beautifully reflects light. But again, it's light. So if you take the jump from the gold to Bitcoin is light and energy. Photosynthesis, all the plants and all the life on the planet, it absorbs light and takes it into energy and kind of takes it into an abstract, and then transforms value from that. So much in a similar way, when I try to do art, it's the same kind of thing. How do I sort of transform and transmute something that I think is light, something that is value, something that has energy, something that has something tangible, and I package it together into something that people would find to be valuable? But it's the same sort of alchemical process of transferring from light into something that is of value and it has energy. And if you start to think about art that way, and you start to look at the things in front of you this way, then it's no longer such a hard journey to try and come to understand why you would find value in Bitcoin, why you would find value in gold, why you would find value in spiritual practices, why you would find value in art. So, but this is, of course, something that I'm not all artists are approaching this thing the same way. Some people just want to throw things together and whatever, pretend that there's something there. And it's easy enough because most people kind of go like, well, I don't know what art is. But that's the essential question. Yeah. What is art and what is value? And while we have all the space in the world for everything to exist, that's not a threat. Like I said, I welcome crypto dick butts into existence and their floor price. If you made a lot of money with it, happy for you, bro. But there is, if you're doing something else with this thing, that might be the foundational ethos of all of it, is how to find the light in things and how to find the energy in them.
That is really beautifully said. I never had experience with art. I come from like a simple Indian background, so like never really experienced contemporary art and stuff. I guess I would be one of those folks back in the day, like never understood. I just thought it's like a bunch of people from Beverly Hills. They just like pretend they know shit or whatever, but I also love the example of how to use light.
Is this because you were asking about the Renaissance, and I think there's two things that are happening. One thing that kind of makes sense to me, if you think in terms of the sort of, let's say, the Industrial Revolution or information revolution or those kinds of things. I think we're going through a creative revolution because you can now use these AI tools and Photoshop and different things, and people can, let's say, someone who would have normally had an office job just a while ago, and now they get introduced into the crypto degen family and those kinds of things, and they go like, holy shit, I might be able to flip JPEGs for a living and do cool stuff and have a cool avatar, as opposed to be like an accountant or something like that. So people's identities are shifting from a different worker reality into, let's say, a creative reality, so that the floor is very low from many people to shift their identity into something that it might have not been otherwise. So this is a part of the NFT evolution that is going on the lower end of the spectrum. But then, of course, what you have is the higher end. Let's say that if this was Renaissance Italy, it would be the Michelangelos and the Da Vincis and the ones who are doing something that would have inspired tourism for centuries for people to come and look at these priceless artifacts that became a part of the global lexicon of value and human achievement and all that kind of stuff. And I would say that much like the Medicis, the Bitcoin decentralized family is the new Medicis, but they don't yet kind of see their role as significantly, because it is decentralized as opposed to one family or just one genius, like let's say Elon Musk or someone like that.
Right. Yeah.
Collectively, the decentralized Medici family hasn't yet realized that they are meant to fund the scientific research. They're meant to fund the Renaissance arts. They're meant to fund all the things that Bitcoin critiques about fiat culture and our decline in our institutions. They're meant to fund the universities that teach the things that they want to be taught. So those kinds of things are still the things that I'm advocating for, and it's sometimes feels a little slow going. But I think that's the real ethos. It's not about the Lambos or the Citadels, even though, you know, some wise people are going to protect themselves, and, you know, it's a cool car. So no worries on things like that. But I would love to see much more things happening where Bitcoin fixes global problems, and people to take that responsibility a little bit more sincerely, not seriously, play with it, but still kind of assume that role what I think Bitcoin is made for. It's not a personal wellness tool, even though that is certainly a big part of it, but it's also, it has this, that we could still very well screw this whole Renaissance up. We haven't done the work yet in order for Bitcoin to earn its place in history as the sort of decentralized Medici family that funded the Renaissance that now we marvel at for centuries after. Because what would the world look like, let's say, if the Medicis would have only done a monetary innovation and then they would have funded their own orgies and citadels and kind of fun stuff and told everyone to let them have cake type situation. So if that would have been the thing, it's like the sucks to be poor type of thing. It's not, we're at that crucial point where we either unite Italy, which is in this case the global community, or then we fuck it up.
I think we're still maybe it will just be a long way. Maybe I think very few people will understand and appreciate what you have to say, like regarding, you know, I guess whether it's like the Bitcoin community or the other crypto communities, like you know, supporting scientific work or supporting the new art forms out there, you know. So I know it is interesting because the previous guest I had for the podcast, he's working on, he's trying to implement space technology on the blockchain, you know, so trying to use satellite data and stuff, which is really fascinating because I never thought about satellites. You know, being in the crypto exchange space, we're very familiar with, you know, GameFi, NFTs, Metaverse, but, you know, trying to use the blockchain as a way to, you know, provide energy, provide financial support for, you know, technologists and geniuses to come up with new ideas, you know. So that, you know, normally it would be either like, you know, someone from the Rockefeller or the Warburg, or maybe a king or you know, some royal family, you know, like supporting a royal scientist or something like that. It is interesting to see that.
Yeah, I would even call him.
I don't know.
I don't actually know well enough what Michael Saylor is doing behind the scenes, but he certainly has that kind of a mindset, and he talks about it very well, you know, and all those power families and what they're doing. But I don't actually know how many philanthropic or artistic or scientific funding expeditions he's doing at the moment. That would be a fascinating conversation. But I would love to know, actually. But he's that kind of a character who could inspire many others, definitely to do more of the same if he was doing it. So, I mean, that would be a fascinating conversation to facilitate at that point. At one point, I'd love to have a talk with him about that, actually.
Yeah, that'd be fascinating though. Yeah, definitely. But anyway, we are almost close to the end. I know there's so much to cover, so much to do, but I would like to end this episode with, your words of wisdom for some upcoming artists who are here in Dubai or any other country. I mean, we are decentralized, I guess, right? So, there are some upcoming artists who are trying to use NFTs or trying to use this technology. So, like, any words of wisdom that you would like to share to some upcoming folks?
I don't know. Usually, when you try and part words of wisdom, you sound like a fool. So I try not to.
Come on now, man. Vesa, man.
Honestly, trying to give advice to
man.
people is massively difficult. But I could say maybe that
Okay.
try and find your authentic voice. I mean, but when I started in film, my first films looked a little bit like the films of the directors that I admired. And there was a part of me, even in those, that was the authentic voice that was coming through, which is your life experience and your actual sort of point of view to the world. And if you don't have one, you need to work towards having one, because you really want to have your own signature to whatever form of art that you're going to be giving to the world. You need to have, everyone else is taken but you. So only you can discover what your authentic voice is, and then kind of bring that to the value conversation. And sometimes that's successful and sometimes it isn't. But that's definitely, the faster you get to something that is the core of you and you can be sincere and honest with it, and then have enough guts to bring it forward, even though it might be fragile or you might be uncertain or insecure about how people would judge it, that's closer to where you will find something where other people will also find the value of you. So the closest thing to what I have discovered thus far, what the purpose of life is maybe to expand my awareness and then have courage, continuously have courage. Those would be the things that'll assist. Yeah, that's it.
No, those are great wise words, and I think it's not just for artists. I think, I guess in many ways, you're kind of speaking to me too, like, because I'm trying to figure things out, and it's interesting you bring the word courage, especially in this space, trying to come up with something new, trying to come up with a unique selling proposition. I guess in my case, sometimes it does take a lot of courage, and to put your ideas forward, also to be authentic too. Sometimes because I think one of my struggles would be to show my true self, I guess, in a way. So I don't know, not in an artistic sense, but I guess, I don't know, because when I got into the space, I was sort of like this anarchist, libertarian. I want to free the money, free the markets, free the world, that kind of thing. So I had that. I think I wasn't like a business person. I was more like an activist. So, but in a very nerdy way, I guess. So I guess I think it was a little kind of like speaks to me over here. So, but before we go, definitely I'll share the work that you're doing in the description below. But I wanted to ask you, are there any upcoming, say, artists or NFT artists, we as the XC.com community or the crypto community in general here should look out for? Who do you think is coming up with some pretty amazing, I guess, creative work, I guess?
Gosh, there are so many who are sort of doing very interesting things. Who would I bring about? I mean, there's this guy. I think. Sorry, I forgot his last name, but I just lately have been looking at his name is Jake. Jake something. Sorry, now I can't find. It's these very interesting sort of black and white transformative animations that he does. I'm so sorry that I forgot his last name. I was just looking at some of his art earlier today.
Oh no, sorry, sorry, I put you on the spot because like I was always.
Yeah, maybe I can find it later, and you can attach it to the show notes as well. But that was.
Oh, sure, no problem.
But altogether, I think it's just that I'm very hopeful for so many who have these different expressions, because the traditional art world has been so stagnant and so walled garden type of a thing that now that we have the metaverse, it's not only that it doesn't matter what you look like, what your gender is, or, you know, none of these things are, I mean, people use them a lot, and some things support is good, but I think most of the whole thing is that now we truly are at a similar kind of playing field, and things get popular, they don't get popular, and people find value or don't find value. And what you have going on in the real world isn't so significant anymore. It can become more the marketplace of ideas and expressions and creativity and that kind of thing. And I think that was always the dream. It's like, because in some sense, I was very fortunate because my mom was an air hostess. So I got to travel a lot ever since I was a kid. Okay. And I saw many different cultures,
awesome.
Many different ways, the way that people dressed and looked and color and all that kind of stuff. And of course, racism wasn't anything that ever made any sense to me. That was just a silly idea. And because I saw, and nationality is the same thing. It's like, yeah, when we were singing the national anthem of Finland in school, it was one of those things. It's like, yeah, this is really cool, but have you been to Paris? You know, it's, and of course that comes across really arrogant and stupid. I said it very like innocently as a child, and then not realizing that not everyone got to go, you know, and then there was a thing about that. But then now it does feel like a lot of the sort of racial questions and those kind of things have turned racist, and in a weird flippant kind of way made it much worse than it was just a while ago, where we weren't all of a sudden paying that much more attention to it, and now all of a sudden we're paying, I think, way too much more importance on it, and it's become a counter thing. And many of the immutable characteristics that we have in the world, we can't really do anything about, because now there's many people who sort of think that, okay, so I'm a straight white middle-aged sort of guy who's into Bitcoin and crystals in a hat and whatever, I might as well be Satan, because of the way that I look and who I'm at to certain kind of thing. And I think this is the dream, is that the metaverse more would be a place where none of those fucking things matter in the slightest. You can have an alien head and rockets for shoes and whatever, and if you have cool ideas, you can be a poor kid from a ghetto somewhere that can all of a sudden be talking to a white MIT master professor, you know, if your ideas resonate and you get to build together. That would be the level of playing field where, let's say, the caste system of the world, which is the financial or different kinds of things, is that it would become a frequency where you can come from the bottom to the top very fast. And the mobility is the dream, is that whoever doesn't want to do anything can be as freely, you know, just low sustaining as they want. And those who want to have a lot of mobility, they can do it optimally. And I think that kind of freedom for the world would be a beautiful thing.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. That's really deep. I really appreciate that. I wish we could continue this. I wish we can, you know. But you know what? But one thing for sure, there's always a next time, and definitely, I'm looking forward for you to come to the eternal city of Dubai, you know, and enjoy that beautiful weather and good friends and good people. So, anyways, we gotta go. Thank you so much, Vesa, for coming on to the XT Cast. You know, here we learned about crypto and blockchain and how it's going to revolutionize the internet, information, and money. And I really learned a lot. And thank you for sharing your thought leadership in this space. And definitely, we need more people like you to, get this space really exciting and bring authenticity and courage in the space. I think it's really important. But anyways, Vesa, thank you so much. But don't hit the leave button. But anyways, fam, XC.com. Y'all be good. Y'all be safe. I'll talk to you soon.
Cheers, Marcos.
Bye for now.